Maria Gonzalez walked slowly through the empty hallways of Westfield High School. The building was quiet now, with most students and teachers gone for the day. Maria liked this peaceful time when she could clean without people rushing past her. At 67 years old, she had been working as a janitor at this school for over 15 years. Every day, Maria arrived at 2 p.m. and stayed until 10 p.m. She mopped floors, cleaned bathrooms, and emptied trash cans. Her hands showed years of hard work, rough and lined from strong cleaning chemicals and physical labor. Despite her age, she moved with purpose, knowing exactly what needed to be done in each room. Most people at Westfield barely noticed Maria. Teachers would nod politely if they passed her in the hallway, but few knew her name. Students sometimes left extra messes for her to clean up, not thinking about who would have to fix their carelessness. Maria had learned to accept this invisibility as part of her job. What nobody at Westfield knew was that Maria had once dreamed of a very different life. Born in a small village in Mexico, she had shown remarkable talent for numbers from a young age. Her elementary school teacher had been amazed when young Maria could solve complex math problems in her head faster than older students could work them out on paper. In high school, Maria had been the top student in mathematics. Her teacher, Mr. Alvarez, had told her parents that Maria had a special gift. She understands math in a way that cannot be taught, he had said. This girl could become a mathematician if given the chance. For a brief time, Maria had allowed herself to dream. She imagined attending university, studying advanced mathematics, perhaps even becoming a professor one day. But life had other plans. When her father became too sick to work, Maria had to quit school at 16 to help support her family. Years passed, and Maria eventually moved to the United States, hoping for better opportunities. She married, had 2 children, and worked whatever jobs she could find. When her husband died unexpectedly 12 years ago, leaving her with teenage children to support alone, Maria had taken the janitor position at Westfield High. The hours worked well with her family needs, and the job provided steady income and health insurance. Despite giving up formal education decades ago, Maria never lost her love for mathematics. In her small apartment, she kept old textbooks she had found at thrift stores and library sales. Late at night, after finishing her shift and household chores, she would sometimes sit at her kitchen table and work through math problems. It was her secret pleasure, her connection to the dreams of her youth. At Westfield, the math classrooms were her favorite places to clean. She would look at the equations left on the whiteboards, sometimes silently correcting mistakes she spotted. Once, she had even erased and fixed an error on a practice test a teacher had written on the board, but she had felt embarrassed afterward and never did it again. Today, as Maria pushed her cart toward the science wing, she didn't know that her routine was about to change dramatically. The newest teacher at Westfield, Dr. James Peterson, was working late in his classroom. Maria had cleaned around him several times before, but they had never spoken. Dr. Peterson, with his expensive clothes and important-sounding title, made Maria feel even more invisible than usual. Maria took a deep breath and pushed her cart forward. It was just another day of work, or so she thought. She had no idea that in a few minutes, her hidden talents would be exposed in a way that would change everything. Dr. James Peterson stood at the whiteboard in room 213, writing complex equations with quick, confident strokes. Even though it was almost 6 p.m., he had stayed late to prepare for tomorrow's advanced placement calculus class. At 34 years old, he was the newest math teacher at Westfield High School, and he was determined to make his mark. Before coming to Westfield, Dr. Peterson had worked at a prestigious university where he had taught graduate-level mathematics. He had only taken this high school job after a funding cut eliminated his university position. In his mind, teaching at Westfield was temporary, just until a better opportunity came along. This is beneath me, he often thought while grading basic algebra homework. He missed the challenge of working with university students who appreciated the beauty of advanced mathematics. Today, Dr. Peterson was especially frustrated. He had given a quiz that afternoon, and the results had been disappointing. Only 3 students had scored above 80%. He couldn't understand why these teenagers couldn't grasp concepts that seemed so clear to him. If they would just pay attention and apply themselves, he muttered as he erased the board with quick, angry motions. Dr. Peterson had always found math easy. He had graduated at the top of his class in college and completed his PhD 2 years earlier than expected. This natural ability made it hard for him to relate to students who struggled. He often lost patience when explaining the same concept multiple times. The sound of a squeaking cart in the hallway interrupted his thoughts. He glanced at the door with annoyance. It was that elderly janitor again, slowly making her rounds. What was her name? Maria? Marta? He couldn't remember and didn't particularly care. Dr. Peterson had noticed her cleaning the classrooms on previous evenings. She moved slowly and methodically, never speaking unless spoken to. He found her presence irritating, especially when she would dust around his desk while he was working. As Maria pushed her cart past his classroom, Dr. Peterson suddenly had an idea. Tomorrow's lesson included a particularly challenging differential equation. Perhaps he could use it now to impress two students who had stayed late to get extra help. "Watch this," he said to the students with a smirk. "Hey, janitor," he called out loudly. Maria stopped her cart and looked up, surprised to be addressed directly. "Come in here for a moment," Dr. Peterson said, gesturing for her to enter the classroom. Maria hesitated, then slowly pushed her cart into the room. She kept her eyes down, uncomfortable with the sudden attention. "I have a question for you," Dr. Peterson said, his voice full of false politeness. The two students exchanged uncomfortable glances, sensing their teacher was up to something unkind. "These students are having trouble with an equation. Maybe you can help them," Dr. Peterson said with a slight laugh. He turned to the whiteboard and quickly wrote out a complex differential equation, one that would challenge even graduate students. "Can you solve this for us?" he asked, holding out the marker to Maria. The students shifted awkwardly in their seats. One of them, Sophia, felt embarrassed for the janitor. She wanted to say something but was afraid of getting on Dr. Peterson's bad side. Maria looked at the equation for a long moment. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes moved across the board, taking in every symbol and number. Dr. Peterson waited for her confusion, ready to use this moment as a lesson about the importance of education. He imagined the janitor stammering, making excuses, and walking away embarrassed. Then he could tell the students, "This is why you need to study, so you don't end up like her." What happened next would change Dr. Peterson's life forever. Maria slowly put down her cleaning cloth and reached for the marker in his hand. "I think I can help with this," she said quietly, her voice steady and sure. The classroom fell silent as Maria took the marker from Dr. Peterson's hand. For a moment, no one moved. Dr. Peterson stood with a frozen smile on his face, while the two students watched with wide eyes. Maria turned to face the whiteboard, her back now to the small audience. "This is ridiculous," Dr. Peterson thought to himself. He expected her to make a few random marks and then give up. He was already planning his smug response about how not everyone has the mind for advanced mathematics. Maria studied the equation on the board. It was a second-order non-homogeneous differential equation with variable coefficients. Complex, yes, but not impossible. She took a deep breath and began to write. Her hand moved across the board with surprising steadiness. First, she identified the homogeneous part of the equation. Then she found a particular solution. Her writing was neat and organized, each step following logically from the one before. Dr. Peterson's smile faded. The students leaned forward in their seats. This was not what any of them had expected. "Wait, what is she doing?" whispered Sophia to the other student, Jason. "I think she's actually solving it," Jason whispered back, amazement clear in his voice. Dr. Peterson stepped closer to the board, watching Maria work through the equation step by step. There was no hesitation in her movements, no signs of guesswork. She applied substitution methods and integration techniques that were taught in advanced university courses. 5 minutes passed in complete silence except for the sound of the marker against the whiteboard. Maria filled nearly half the board with her work. When she reached the end of the solution, she wrote the final answer and underlined it twice. She turned around and handed the marker back to Dr. Peterson. "I believe this is correct," she said quietly. "Though there is another approach using the place transforms that might be more elegant." Dr. Peterson stared at the board, checking her work. Each step was perfectly executed. The solution was correct. He looked back at Maria, seeing her, truly seeing her, for the first time. "How did you?" he began, unable to finish his question. Sophia broke the silence with a spontaneous burst of applause. "That was amazing. she exclaimed. Maria's cheeks turned slightly pink. Math was always my favorite subject in school, she said simply. But this isn't basic math, Dr. Peterson said, finding his voice. This is advanced calculus. This is graduate-level work. Maria shrugged slightly. Numbers have always made sense to me. Jason stood up and walked to the board. Could you explain how you knew to use this substitution? He asked, pointing to one of her steps. Before Maria could answer, the classroom door opened. Principal Garcia stepped in, looking surprised at the scene before her. Is everything okay in here? She asked, looking from the students to Dr. Peterson to Maria. Mrs. Garcia, Sophia said excitedly, you won't believe what just happened. Maria just solved this super hard equation that even Dr. Peterson said was difficult. Principal Garcia looked at the board, then at Maria with new interest. Is that right, Maria? Maria nodded slightly, clearly uncomfortable with all the attention. It was just a math problem, she said quietly. I should get back to my work now. Wait, Dr. Peterson said, a strange mix of emotions crossing his face. There was still shock there, but also something new, respect, and perhaps a touch of shame. I'd like to talk with you more about this. Where did you learn advanced mathematics? Maria hesitated, one hand on her cleaning cart. Part of her wanted to leave, to go back to the comfortable invisibility of her daily routine. But another part, a part she had pushed down for decades, wanted to talk about mathematics again, to share the knowledge she had kept hidden for so long. It's a long story, she finally said. Principal Garcia looked at her watch. Maria, your shift is almost over, isn't it? Why don't you join us in my office? I think we all would like to hear this story. Principal Garcia's office felt strange to Maria. In all her years at Westfield High School, she had only been inside this room 3 times, once when she was hired, once for her 5-year service recognition, and once when they needed to discuss a special cleaning project. Now, sitting in a comfortable chair across from the principal's desk, with Dr. Peterson and the 2 students nearby, Maria felt out of place in her gray janitor uniform. Would you like some coffee, Maria? Principal Garcia asked, gesturing to the small coffee maker in the corner. No, thank you, Maria replied softly. I should call my daughter soon. She will worry if I am late coming home. Of course. I'll make this quick, Principal Garcia assured her. But first, I have to ask, where did you learn to solve equations like that? Maria folded her hands in her lap, looking down at fingers that were rough from years of cleaning. For a moment, she considered giving a simple answer and leaving, but something about the genuine interest in everyone's faces made her decide to share more. I was born in a small town near Mexico City, she began. My father worked in construction, and my mother cleaned houses. We did not have much money, but we had books. My father loved books about science and mathematics. Maria's voice grew stronger as she continued. When I was 8 years old, my teacher noticed I could solve math problems meant for older children. By 13, I had finished all the math books in our small school library. Dr. Peterson leaned forward in his chair. Did you go to college? He asked. Maria shook her head. No. My father became very sick when I was 16. I had to leave school to help support my family. A shadow of old pain crossed her face. My mathematics teacher tried to help. He gave me his old university textbooks. He said I had a special gift that should not be wasted. Did you keep studying on your own? Sophia asked. Maria nodded. Every night, after work, I would study for 1 or 2 hours. Sometimes more if I could stay awake, she smiled slightly. Mathematics was my escape. When I was solving the equations, I could forget about tired feet and hungry stomachs. What about when you came to America? Jason asked. Life was hard at first, Maria admitted. I worked many jobs, in restaurants, hotels, factories. Always I kept my books. When libraries would throw away old textbooks, I would take them home. She gestured toward Dr. Peterson. The equation you wrote. I learned about differential equations from a book I found in a recycling bin behind the community college. Principal Garcia exchanged a meaningful look with Dr. Peterson. Maria, did you ever try to go back to school here in America? Maria's smile faded. By the time I had enough English, I also had small children and bills to pay. After my husband died, there was no time for school. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed her story. Dr. Peterson looked particularly troubled. I need to apologize, Mrs. Gonzalez, he finally said, using her formal name for the first time. I asked you to solve that equation because he paused, clearly uncomfortable. I wanted to make a point to my students. I never expected you to know the answer. What I did was disrespectful, and I am truly sorry. Maria nodded, accepting his apology with quiet dignity. I have an idea, Principal Garcia said suddenly. Our math tutor for the after-school program just resigned. We need someone who can help struggling students 3 days a week from 3:30 to 5:30. Maria, would you be interested in adjusting your schedule to take this position? It pays more than your current hourly rate. Maria's eyes widened. Me? A tutor? Based on what I saw today, Dr. Peterson said, you would be excellent. Maria felt tears forming in her eyes. After decades of cleaning classrooms, she might actually get to teach in one. Yes, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I would like that very much. 3 weeks after Maria began tutoring, Dr. Peterson sat in his car in the school parking lot, deep in thought. Through his windshield, he could see Maria walking toward the bus stop, her shoulders no longer stooped with exhaustion. Since starting her new role as a math tutor, she seemed to stand taller, walk with more purpose. Dr. Peterson had been watching Maria's tutoring sessions. What he saw had humbled him. Students who had been failing his class were now turning in completed homework. Some were even raising their hands to answer questions during lessons, something they had never done before. He started his car and drove slowly alongside Maria. Rolling down his window, he called out, Mrs. Gonzalez, may I give you a ride home? Maria looked surprised but nodded. Thank you. The next bus doesn't come for 30 minutes. As they drove, an uncomfortable silence filled the car. Dr. Peterson had rehearsed what he wanted to say, but now the words felt stuck in his throat. Your tutoring is making a big difference, he finally said. Tyler Johnson turned in his first complete assignment yesterday. Maria smiled. He is very smart. He just needed to believe he could do it. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Dr. Peterson said, stopping at a red light. You connect with these students in a way I haven't been able to. You explain concepts so they understand. I had a good teacher once, Maria replied simply. He taught me that mathematics is not just about formulas, it is about seeing patterns in the world. Dr. Peterson nodded, then took a deep breath. I've been doing some research about you, Mrs. Gonzalez. Maria looked at him sharply. Research? I hope you don't mind. I was curious about your background after what happened. He paused. I found something interesting in an old Mexican mathematics journal from 1975. Maria's hands tightened in her lap. What did you find? A paper on number theory, written by a 17-year-old student named Maria Suarez, your maiden name, right? The paper was published with a note from the editor saying it showed remarkable insight from such a young mind. Maria looked out the window, her eyes suddenly distant. I had almost forgotten about that paper. My teacher, Mr. Alvarez, sent it to the journal without telling me. I was so surprised when it was published. Mrs. Gonzalez, that paper is still cited today in current research. Did you know that? Maria shook her head, clearly shocked. And I found something else, Dr. Peterson continued. A scholarship offer from the National University of Mexico, addressed to you in 1976. It was mentioned in a local newspaper article about promising students. My father died 2 weeks after that offer came, Maria said quietly. My mother could not work because of her back problems. My younger brothers and sisters needed food. The scholarship would not have paid enough for all of that. Dr. Peterson pulled into the parking lot of a small coffee shop. Can we talk for a few minutes before I take you home? Inside the coffee shop, with steaming cups in front of them, Dr. Peterson placed a folder on the table. I have a proposal for you, Mrs. Gonzalez. He opened the folder to reveal application forms for the local community college. The spring semester starts in January. There's a special program for adult students who want to complete their education. Maria stared at the papers. I am 67 years old, Dr. Peterson. It is too late for college. It's never too late, he insisted. You could start with just 2 classes. The school has scholarships for older students returning to education. And he hesitated. I would be happy to help you prepare for the placement tests. Maria picked up one of the forms, her fingers trembling slightly. "Why are you doing this?" Dr. Peterson looked down at his coffee. "Because I was wrong about you. About a lot of things. I judged you without knowing your story." He looked up at her. "And because mathematics needs minds like yours, no matter how they come to us." Maria was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse and took out a pen. "My daughter will think I have gone crazy," she said with a small smile. "But yes, I will apply." As Maria began filling out the application, Dr. Peterson saw something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. A spark of hope, reignited after decades of being dimmed. The community college campus buzzed with activity as students rushed to their first classes of the spring semester. Among them walked Maria Gonzalez, clutching a new backpack her daughter Lucia had given her as a gift. Inside were fresh notebooks, pens, and 2 textbooks, college algebra and introduction to physics. "You can do this, Mama," Lucia had told her that morning, helping Maria choose an outfit for her first day. They had settled on simple black pants and a blue blouse, professional but comfortable. Now, as Maria approached the mathematics building, her confidence began to waver. All around her were young students, many the same age as her grandchildren. Several were looking at their phones or talking loudly with friends. Maria felt out of place, like an intruder in a world where she didn't belong. She checked her schedule again, looking for room 142 where her algebra class would meet. As she searched the hallway, a young woman with bright pink hair approached her. "Are you lost? I can help you find the administration office," the student offered. Maria shook her head. "No, thank you. I am looking for room 142. I am a student here." The young woman's eyes widened slightly in surprise, but she quickly smiled. "Oh, that's Professor Wilson's class, right? I'm headed there too. I'm Zoe." "I am Maria," she replied, relieved to have found a friendly face. They walked together to the classroom, with Zoe chatting about how she was returning to college after taking a year off. Maria listened politely, not sharing her own much longer gap in education. When they entered the classroom, Maria chose a seat near the front. She took out her notebook and carefully wrote the date at the top of the first page. Around her, students continued to file in, filling the room with the energy of new beginnings. Professor Wilson arrived exactly at 9 a.m. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a welcoming smile. "Good morning, everyone. Welcome to College Algebra. I'm Professor Wilson, and I'm excited to start this journey with all of you." As he began reviewing the syllabus, Maria took detailed notes, not wanting to miss anything important. The material seemed manageable. She had reviewed algebra extensively while preparing for the placement test with Dr. Peterson's help. "Now," Professor Wilson said after going through the course requirements, "I'd like us all to introduce ourselves. Please share your name and why you're taking this class." Maria's heart beat faster as each student took their turn. When it was finally her time to speak, she took a deep breath. "My name is Maria Gonzalez. I am taking this class because—" She paused, then continued with more confidence, "because I have loved mathematics all my life. And now I finally have the chance to study it properly." Professor Wilson smiled warmly. "That's wonderful, Maria. It's never too late to pursue what you love." After class, Professor Wilson asked Maria to stay behind for a moment. "Dr. Peterson from Westfield High called me about you," he explained. "He told me your story. It's quite remarkable." Maria looked down, uncomfortable with the attention. "I am just a student like everyone else." "Of course," Professor Wilson agreed. "But if you find this class too basic for your skills, please let me know. We might be able to place you in a more advanced course." "Thank you, but I want to build a strong foundation," Maria replied. "I have learned many things on my own, but I may have gaps in my knowledge." Professor Wilson nodded with approval. A wise approach. By the way, the college has a tutoring center where students help other students. Given your experience tutoring at the high school, would you be interested in working there part-time? It pays well, and the hours are flexible. Maria hadn't expected this opportunity. Between her reduced janitorial hours, her high school tutoring position, and now potentially a college tutoring job, she could actually earn more than before while spending less time cleaning. "I would like that very much," she said, a smile spreading across her face. As Maria left the building to head to her physics class, she noticed the sky seemed bluer, the air fresher. At 67 years old, Maria Gonzalez was finally becoming the person she had always dreamed of being. 4 years had passed since the day Maria solved that differential equation in Dr. Peterson's classroom. On this bright May morning, the auditorium of City Community College was filled with proud families watching the graduation ceremony. Among the graduates sat Maria Gonzalez, now 71 years old, wearing a cap and gown with gold honors cords draped around her neck. Maria Guadalupe Gonzalez, the dean called out. Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, summa cum laude. The audience erupted in applause as Maria walked across the stage. In the front row, Lucia wiped tears from her eyes while Maria's grandchildren cheered loudly. Behind them sat Dr. Peterson, Principal Garcia, and several students from Westfield High, now college students themselves, who had once been in Maria's tutoring group. As Maria accepted her diploma, the dean added, Mrs. Gonzalez is also the recipient of this year's Outstanding Mathematics Student Award and has been accepted to the university's master's program with a full scholarship. More applause filled the room. Maria's journey had inspired many people at the college. She had completed her 4-year degree in just 3 years, taking summer classes and testing out of several requirements. Her professors often remarked that her unique perspective and life experience gave her insights that younger students lacked. After the ceremony, Maria found herself surrounded by well-wishers. Her family presented her with flowers, and her grandchildren took turns wearing her graduation cap. Dr. Peterson approached her with a small wrapped gift. Congratulations, Professor Gonzalez, he said with a smile. Maria laughed. I am not a professor yet, Dr. Peterson. Just practicing saying it, he replied. It won't be long now. He handed her the gift. This is something I thought you should have. Maria opened the package to find a framed copy of her paper from 1975, the one published in the Mexican Mathematics Journal when she was just 17. I had it professionally translated and reprinted, Dr. Peterson explained. Your work on number theory was decades ahead of its time. Some of the concepts you explored are only now being fully developed with modern computing. Maria touched the frame gently, memories flooding back of the young girl who had written those equations by candlelight after her family had gone to bed. There's something else, Dr. Peterson continued. Westfield High School has created a new scholarship in your name, the Maria Gonzalez Excellence in Mathematics Award. It will be given each year to a promising student who has overcome significant obstacles. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Later that evening, Maria sat on the small balcony of her apartment, still wearing her graduation gown. The setting sun painted the sky with beautiful colors as she thought about the unexpected turn her life had taken. For decades, she had cleaned classrooms where others taught and learned. She had watched young people receive the education she had been denied. She had mopped floors beneath whiteboards filled with equations she could solve but was never asked to. Now, at 71, Maria was preparing to begin her master's degree. The college had already offered her a position teaching introductory mathematics courses while she studied. Several of her undergraduate research projects had been published in academic journals. A professor from MIT had even reached out about her work on an innovative approach to solving partial differential equations. Maria thought of Mr. Alvarez, her high school teacher in Mexico who had recognized her talent all those years ago. Mathematics is patient, he had told her. It will wait for you to return to it. He had been right. The numbers and equations had waited for her, unchanged by time. From her balcony, Maria could see the lights of Westfield High School in the distance. She still went there twice a week to tutor students, though she no longer cleaned the building. The janitor's closet where she had once stored her mop and cleaning supplies was now used by someone else. Maria smiled as she imagined the path that stretched before her. Teaching, researching, perhaps even writing the mathematics textbook she had already begun planning. Her story was far from over. In fact, in many ways, it was just beginning. It is never too late to become who you might have been, she said softly to herself, repeating the quote her daughter had framed for her as a graduation gift. Maria Gonzalez, once an invisible janitor, had finally stepped into the light. 4 years had passed since the day Maria solved that differential equation in Dr. Peterson's classroom. On this bright May morning, the auditorium of City Community College was filled with proud families watching the graduation ceremony. Among the graduates sat Maria Gonzalez, now 71 years old, wearing a cap and gown with gold honors cords draped around her neck. Maria Guadalupe Gonzalez, the dean called out. Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, summa cum laude. The audience erupted in applause as Maria walked across the stage. In the front row, Lucia wiped tears from her eyes while Maria's grandchildren cheered loudly. Behind them sat Dr. Peterson, Principal Garcia, and several students from Westfield High, now college students themselves, who had once been in Maria's tutoring group. As Maria accepted her diploma, the dean added, Mrs. Gonzalez is also the recipient of this year's Outstanding Mathematics Student Award and has been accepted to the university's master's program with a full scholarship. More applause filled the room. Maria's journey had inspired many people at the college. She had completed her 4-year degree in just 3 years, taking summer classes and testing out of several requirements. Her professors often remarked that her unique perspective and life experience gave her insights that younger students lacked. After the ceremony, Maria found herself surrounded by well-wishers. Her family presented her with flowers, and her grandchildren took turns wearing her graduation cap. Dr. Peterson approached her with a small wrapped gift. Congratulations, Professor Gonzalez, he said with a smile. Maria laughed. I am not a professor yet, Dr. Peterson. Just practicing saying it, he replied. It won't be long now. He handed her the gift. This is something I thought you should have. Maria opened the package to find a framed copy of her paper from 1975, the one published in the Mexican Mathematics Journal when she was just 17. I had it professionally translated and reprinted, Dr. Peterson explained. Your work on number theory was decades ahead of its time. Some of the concepts you explored are only now being fully developed with modern computing. Maria touched the frame gently, memories flooding back of the young girl who had written those equations by candlelight after her family had gone to bed. There's something else? Dr. Peterson continued. Westfield High School has created a new scholarship in your name, the Maria Gonzalez Excellence in Mathematics Award. It will be given each year to a promising student who has overcome significant obstacles. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Later that evening, Maria sat on the small balcony of her apartment, still wearing her graduation gown. The setting sun painted the sky with beautiful colors as she thought about the unexpected turn her life had taken. For decades, she had cleaned classrooms where others taught and learned. She had watched young people receive the education she had been denied. She had mopped floors beneath whiteboards filled with equations she could solve, was never asked to. Now, at 71, Maria was preparing to begin her master's degree. The college had already offered her a position teaching introductory mathematics courses while she studied. Several of her undergraduate research projects had been published in academic journals. A professor from MIT had even reached out about her work on an innovative approach to solving partial differential equations. Maria thought of Mr. Alvarez, her high school teacher in Mexico who had recognized her talent all those years ago. Mathematics is patient, he had told her. It will wait for you to return to it. He had been right. The numbers and equations had waited for her, unchanged by time. From her balcony, Maria could see the lights of Westfield High School in the distance. She still went there twice a week to tutor students, though she no longer cleaned the building. The janitor's closet where she had once stored her mop and cleaning supplies was now used by someone else. Maria smiled as she imagined the path that stretched before her, teaching, researching, perhaps even writing the mathematics textbook she had already begun planning. Her story was far from over. In fact, in many ways, it was just beginning. It is never too late to become who you might have been, she said softly to herself, repeating the quote her daughter had framed for her as a graduation gift. Maria Gonzalez, once an invisible janitor, had finally stepped into the light.